TGC Requiem here. We're playing Death Shadow Abzan today. This is pretty similar to the list that Reed Duke played in the team event. Made a couple very minor changes. In the main deck, it's pretty much just replacing the Murderous Cut with Path to Exile. Not that Murderous Cut isn't good, but Murderous Cut does steal a little bit from your other cards that carry about Delirium, such as Grimflayer, Tarmogoyf, Traverse the Evenwald, and so that's really the only change to the main. And the sideboard, just stuff that more matches, I think, what the metagame is like right now. This is fine. I feel like, certainly we're at some risk of not drawing into our next land, but I do like the threat base here, so I think we're just going to keep this. And we're going to hope we get another land in the next couple draw steps. So we don't want to draw another bauble, so we are just going to crack the land now. And that way we get 2 new draw steps towards the next land. But we're going to go sideways. I almost think bauble is broken right now. You wouldn't believe how many times I bauble, fetch, and then draw exactly what I scryed off the bauble trigger. It isn't every time though, so it's possible that it's not technically broken. But basically, I don't really necessarily with this build go as hard at the life total as I don't go as hard at the life total as I would with like the Jund Shadow, because Jund Shadow has the big overrun. In this deck, you're playing a little more of a control-y game. You don't have the combo finish, and so basically, I'm a little more conservative with my fetches, not trying to race to Death Shadow. Protection from black and red, so he's pretty good against a Tarmogoyf. Looks like we have a little bit of a Soul Sisters type deck. Just going to hold on to the bauble for the moment. Soul's Attendant. They're going to gain a whole bunch of life. Oh yeah, the Pride Mate. So we are going to actually go ahead and crack at this point. He has an Honor of the Pure on the way. Looks like he maybe stacked his triggers a little wrong. Oh, never mind. Just as life gain, the Pride Mate trigger is coming on. But we have an Abrupt Decay to handle that. That's not a problem. And we even got a fetch land. So we are okay with going for the extra fetch land here. I'm going to actually go Inquisition into Abrupt Decay. 30 or more life. He gets 5/5 and flying. So we're not so much worried about that. It's just going to be a 1/1. Soul Warden. Soul's Attendant. Guess it doesn't really matter. We're going to take the Soul Warden. And then we're going to attack and just hope he doesn't block with anything. And then after combat, we'll just go ahead and kill off the Pridemate. Guess we could have done that before combat to get a couple more points of damage in there. Wasn't thinking that through. It's going to make it very difficult for him to turn those Serra Ascendants on if we just keep applying pressure like this. And then he's going to help turn on our Death Shadows here. He's going to be in chump blocking duty pretty quick here unless he plays that one little creature that allows him to discard cards, but I guess even there it's not that great. There's a Soul Sisters card where you can like reveal white cards from your hand to gain life. Alright, so we're just gonna start by dropping Lily, make him sacrifice a creature. We are not going to attack with the Death Shadow this turn just because he's going to get chumped by the Auriok Champion if we do. We do want to try and somewhat protect our Liliana. If he wants to go right at it, at Liliana, he basically loses next turn, so we just keep applying the pressure here. Assume the Auriok Champion's going to at least kill off the Liliana, maybe. So he's got 3 attacking creatures, so he's going to be able to flip Windbrisk Heights. See if he goes for it. Yep. So in response, we're going to go ahead and I think we're actually going to go with the Temple Garden here, just in case this is another Honor of the Pure. If he drops another Honor of the Pure and we don't get a shock land, we're actually going to take we're going to actually trade off the Shadow, which we don't want to do. So it's actually just another Auriok Champion. He'll gain a little bit of life. But we're going to have too much damage swinging back here, I think. unless he has like a Path to Exile or something held up there. Alright, so he's just going to gain enough life to keep pushing the game on. And this is one of the benefits of running 4 Liliana of the Veils. So if we attack with everybody here, he can chump the Shadow. Yeah, he can get away with blocking just 1. And he's an Honor of the Pure away from winning on a crackback, so we actually need to keep the Shadow back to block the Soul's Attendant. Our opponent is pretty much out of chances here. Land certainly is not going to help the opponent here. I think we're about to get a concession from our opponent. Looks like he's going to make us play it through. Even if he has 1 path, there's really nothing he can do here that is lethal. He's just going to take it. And that is game 1. So, let's see. We got trying really hard to make sure we handle this. Give me one moment. Alright, sorry about that. So my daughter had to come into the room I was in for a second. So we got the first game. Games could be a little bit grindier. Ranger of Eos, I don't know if that's necessary. Liliana of the Last Hope seems very good in this matchup. Lingering Souls could be pretty good in a grindier matchup like this. It's going to take a while. We need ways to get the damage through. Collective Brutality seems like good removal. Scavenging Ooze could be alright. Path to Exile seems decent. What would we want to take out? I'm going to assume there's going to be some sort of graveyard hate, so it's possible we want to cut something like Traverse the Uvenwald. Liliana of the Veil is not the greatest in this sort of matchup where your opponent is getting wide. Not to say she's terrible, but just not necessarily the greatest. I think we could, based on their hand, they're going to unload their hand pretty quickly. So I'm good pulling a good 4 pieces of hand disruption out. Mostly the Thoughtseize, because the life gain is going to matter to them. We're less worried about gaining life in this, or essentially rushing down to our shadows in this matchup, considering the shadows are a little bit weaker with the Auriok champion. And beyond that, so I would expect some amount of graveyard hate, so it's possible we even want to cut like a Tarmogoyf. I just would expect us to see Rest in Peace. Actually, you know what? We're actually going to cut a Street Wraith. And then Tarmogoyf still can buy us time, even as just a chump blocker, while we find an Abrupt Decay to handle the rest in peace. This is good enough. This is not a particularly great hand, explosive hand, or anything like that, but it's pretty good. We got a little bit of all the stuff we want to work with. Collective Brutality would be a nice turn 2 play. Alright, so Thoughtseize is actually pretty good here. We're actually going to just go ahead and fire that off. Improvement on what we had. Alright, so Ranger of Eos, Path to Exile, and Honor the Pure. Honor the Pure is really good, but he has no creatures in hand, and we want to reduce the amount of... and he only has one land, and his other land is a legendary. Wow. Well, let's see. When Great Flagstone's Care is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, you may search. So he actually is going to be able to play this and replace this for a basic, so he's actually okay there. I think we're definitely going to take the path. This will force him to use a path on our Grimflayer, which will help set up our turn 3 Liliana, which we're pretty happy with. Although we may even just go straight into Lingering Souls at that point. So he's going to tap for mana, then he's going to sacrifice the Flagstone, go get a Plains. He actually has access to 3 mana now, so he will be able to play his Honor the Pure. Oh no, he's just going to bring it in tapped. So he could have played his Honor the Pure and held up Path. He actually drew an Auriok Champion, so that's fine. Fatal Push, unfortunately, doesn't do anything there. Again, he doesn't have any other creatures, so we're just going to go into a Shrine, and we're going to drop the Flare, knowing it's going to get killed. Technically pathed. But that's fine. The expectation is he's going to run out Honor the Pure the next turn, and his path is going to allow us to... Well, I guess he can't path and Honor the Pure unless he draws another land. There we go. So assumption is we're going to get a... Man, all the Flagstones. And again, the assumption is just going to path the Flare, which will allow us to Liliana. And he does not aggressively do that, which is fine. But here we will just run out the Liliana anyway. So he only has one creature. Protection from black does not protect you from sacrifice effects, so here comes the path, presumably. Can't imagine he'll let us connect with the Grimflayer even once. It just is going to allow us too much filtering. And then that sets us up pretty nicely going through the rest of the game. If he doesn't draw a land here, that Ranger of Eos is just stuck in his hand. Spectral Procession, and we have Lingering Souls, so we're kind of okay here, and we drew all of the removal. So we're actually going to probably just uptick and hit Lingering Souls here, and then we're just going to wipe out all of his spirits. So he no longer has the Ranger, and as wasteful as it is, This is actually going to set us up to keep that Liliana pressure going. We'll have Lingering Souls next turn. Oh, another Spectral Procession. Brutal. We really don't want to spend the Traverse, but we need a creature in the graveyard to turn Traverse on. And we do want to keep Liliana alive. I think we're just going to hold up Abrupt Decay here. Let him take a poke. Oh, that's a little frustrating. So hopefully he'll only send one Liliana. Probably send 2 Spirits at Liliana, I'm assuming. He sends them all. Oh, he's backing up a little bit. He's just going to send them all at me. So this actually makes me feel a lot more comfortable with trading 2 spirits off for one of his spirits. And then we're actually going to kill the other... Oh, no, we can't. We have to hit the Honor of the Pure. Makes me really wish I'd have just down-ticked Liliana this last turn. We are going to have to sacrifice Liliana, but that does allow us to use the Traverse now. The question is, what can we get at this point? I mean, Shadow definitely presents a fast clock, but an Auriok Champion just gets shut down. Really, I think Ooze is really our best option, as it can gain us life and outsize the spirits. How many creatures do we have over there? Just the 2, though. So that isn't necessarily great. I think we're going to go with Grimflayer at this point. And that way we can at least try and filter our draws to handle the threats on board. So Death Shadow doesn't do us any good. So we're just throwing these all in the trash. We need removal or flyers. It's going to take 3 swings for him. He's going to get a hideaway. But it's going to be hard for him to get 3 creatures on the battlefield. Most likely. Alright, so that buys us some time. We don't need any of these. Shadow actually might be okay now that we will have the Scavenging Ooze. But I almost feel like the Scavenging Ooze life gain ability is more important, especially considering the scope of the game. We probably will crack the Catacombs this turn for a sideways land, because now he starts to be at a threat with how many creatures we have that we can eat. 1, 2, 3, 4 with the Scavenging Ooze. He has to start thinking about blocking. We can't crack it now unless he decides not to attack. Alright, so there's our Brutality. We can't quite kill him. I'm going to get him down to 2 life. And then that's the removal we want on top. And we could look at his hand and make him discard a card. Might as well, just to see what he has. The -2 ability doesn't do anything. Yeah, I figured it was a plains, not surprising. Looks like we're going to grind back here, short of him drawing something phenomenal right now. That path should clear the way for us next turn. Alright, and our opponent just is conceding. So wow. So this is one of the benefits, I guess, of the Abzan deck versus, say, the Jund. The Jund is really focused on trying to close fast, similar to how Jund likes to try and close fast against, you know, combo decks and stuff like that. Abzan Shadow has the ability with those aggressive shadow draws to kind of close faster, but it's much more grindy. Liliana the Veil works really well with Liliana Veil, Collective Brutality, Grim Flayer, Lingering Souls. All really pair well together, or they all pair well with Lingering Souls. So you have that functionality, plus this deck just, you know, you have a lot of draws where you'll go Inquisition, Thoughtseize, Liliana, or something like that, or Inquisition, Thoughtseize, Liliana, and you can just take over the game. So this really almost is the best blend of like your normal BGX deck versus the Shadow deck, which does give it some weaknesses. So it's less quick, less fast than like a Shadow build. So it has a little bit more trouble with Jund, or not Jund, with Tron rather. Whereas the Death Shadow Jund deck is much better against Tron rather. And these decks are a little slower against combo, so you have a little more trouble with combo. But you're a lot better in the mid-range mirrors. So anyway, this is a good deck. We'll be back with some more Shadow Abzan shortly.